taken people to the Visionary Summit, there's been visionaries that are like, I'm happier with who I am here than I am at work or home. And it's sad, but it's very common. It's like because they felt safe. They didn't feel judged. And people may or may not be judging us, but that's that narrative in our heads. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, it's just there's so much chatter going on in the world, and it's tough to filter that through. So it's just so much simpler just to go, okay, this is all that really matters most, and this is who I am and why I'm here, and to stay focused on that and to be present is the key.
Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glahn. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm John Glahn. I'm with Bob Shenefelt, Coach Bob Shenefelt. I think everyone's accounted for. Let's start the roll call.
Awesome. Great to be here.
So as an introduction, Bob, you have been so monumental in my life, and really probably kind of the inspiration of this podcast, right? The roll call, which is about the roles that we play all as entrepreneurs, right? The 15,000 hats we wear there. But what about the rest of life? And you were really monumental in my life to realize those other things, family, community, etc. We go through those parts of life, we play those roles, but are we playing them intentionally? And so I could spend 30 minutes just talking to everyone about the impact you've had on me. I found you from a friend of a friend as a visionary coach. Right. And I was like, my hair was on fire. I'm like, I'm done. And I always thought I needed to get away. And I knew about your Go to the Mountain. I'd heard about it, which we'll let everybody know how to find that out. But I knew I needed to get away. And I remember calling you that day and said, I've heard about it. I want to go. And you're like, well, it's not for another 4 months. I'm like, wow, crap. What else do you have? And then the rest is history. And you've been, again, so monumental in me transforming my life over the past few years. So welcome again to the show.
Thank you.
Love to have you here. So again, the roles we play in life, right? Let's hear about your story and how you find these roles in life.
Well, it's great to be here, and thank you for the kind words. Mm-hmm. I am a coach and a teacher, but even more a student. And so even things like this are awesome to share what I'm teaching because that helps me to learn. So I appreciate the question. It ever evolves, and as we've talked about, there's many different models to look at, and a lot of us visionaries become thought leaders and we create our own models. So the model that has come through me and through my wife and I is our life ladder. And the life ladder is 5 rungs of life, which is spirit and health and relationships, craft and community. And when we have an opportunity, it's a wall. So that opportunity might be a relationship, a business, an idea, whatever it might be, and we climb to the top. And insanity is 20 years later, it's the wrong wall, and we're still saying, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And so as Joseph Campbell talks about, jump, it's not that far. And so the life ladder is realizing what matters most to me on these different rungs of the ladder. And it changes and evolves. And so every time we go up and down the ladder, every time I go up and down the ladder, I realize what matters most. So I say that because that helps me to figure out what roles to play. Excuse me. So 25 years ago, it was a big role was to be the inspiration and the leader behind my business and to grow it. And that mattered most to me. Mm-hmm. And then I find the love of my life. And so that mattered most to me, and have a health issue. And that mattered most to me. And then we have kids. And so it evolves. And every time we go up and down that ladder, it's not a failure when we jump, it's an opportunity to learn. So the roles, again, it's been to party my ass through college. Okay, that was cool. And then to find someone, and then ultimately to be successful, whatever that means, and then to start to realize what does being successful means. Meeting Cheryl, who you know and love, and she loves you. And then it was a role is to be a spirit, to be an observer, obviously to be a parent, and that's been the last 25 years, is creating content for me to learn and teach, but also mainly to be a parent. So as you know, my kids are now 23 and about to get married, and 18 and about to go away and play baseball in college. And so I'm kind of figuring out what that role is now.
Yeah.
And so it's really to be what I'm teaching, and to be an observer and to be present. And I'm still client number one with my business, for sure. Mm-hmm. And again, that's what I love. A lot of the people I coach become coaches and become mentors. And so I call that craft. And craft is teaching what I need to learn. So I'm teaching about being present and what is that role right now. And it changes.
Yeah.
So even this is maybe not even part of this question, but cut me off.
Bring it.
So my kids are leaving, and it's like, holy shit. And there's a lot of people like, oh, I can't wait. And I'm like, I don't want them to leave. And they're not leaving forever, but we do so much with them. And then for Nick to go 10 hours away. And so I was in yoga the other day, which I'm back into, being a little bit more present with some of those things. And I'm like, oh, there's sadness in my heart. My heart feels like I'm breaking. And I've grown up. One of my roles is to provide optimism and excitement and passion, and that's great. And one of our family practices is to shove emotions down and to be happy. Yeah. And that works, but also shoves a lot of emotions down. So laying there on the yoga floor, I opened up my heart to allow what I thought was a negative emotion and experience and consciousness of sadness. And I felt it extreme for about 3 seconds, and then joy rushed in. And it's like, holy smokes. I've not only been hiding the negative emotions, but I've been hiding some of the positive and not experiencing it. So to answer your question, the roles have evolved. Today, it's to be an amazing husband, because Cheryl and I have been parents, and then to take care of, to be an amazing example of health and spirit and observing and really being present, not worried about the future or regretting the past. So.
Yeah, no, and for anyone listening at home, right? I think you had about 45 roles and all that, which is real right. For an entrepreneur. Well, for everyone. I think we take on more professionally as entrepreneurs, but like I was saying, the other part, which really you didn't even talk about business, right?
Interesting.
It was all on the personal side and those roles and how important that is to you. And that's what's fantastic. And not many people actually get to teach their craft at work that translates to the craft at home. Because it sounds like work or whatnot. But what you actually do, and I've seen it firsthand, is it's translatable, because it's about being a human.
Right.
It's about all the rawness that's a human. It's about what you just mentioned. You actually made room in your heart by letting that fear, letting that anger or sad, whatever it was, acknowledging it, then it allowed space for that joy.
Right.
And that's another thing, right? The more we hold on to that, we don't allow space for anything else, because
right.
it's just grinding away.
Right.
It's grinding away.
Can I add one more thing? So thank you for bringing up business.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever retire, and it's not like I could just stop working now and could be financially successful and do everything I wanted. But it's about being what I love and giving and getting energy and having freedom. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to go to work. And so I'm realizing, I just don't want to do the things that I'm not good at. And so, like a lot of us going down the hero's journey, we recreate and go to that call to adventure. And I've done that recently by giving up one of my roles as a business coach. And then it's like, okay, I'm a life coach, but I'm really a coach for other visionaries to just be, and ultimately it's to be in that visionary seat. And that, the visionary, it's not just a seat, it's who we are as a person. We're not better or worse than others. And so I've realized I don't want to be a CEO. I don't necessarily want to, I don't want to do to surface what I sell.
Yeah.
So it's having this compelling vision and having these amazing people show up to do the other things that they're great at and love. And so that's where I think a lot of us visionaries, we see an issue, we help solve it, and then we have to feel like we have to then deliver on it, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's where right now I'm recreating my business, and I'm back in the shit, and I'm like, what did I just do? So to take a deep breath and realize, okay, that's not the role I want to play. I'm a visionary, and my why is to create and experience peace, create and experience joy, create and experience freedom. I've created a lot of those, but I haven't always been experiencing them. And so to be really clear with people because I don't want to do this by myself on the business side.
Right.
So to be really clear on that vision, it all starts with the vision, and it's a simple plan written down and shared. And then, here's what I need people-wise.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to come back to the business side a little bit, where, some of us visionaries may be good at other things. And often many of us are good at selling, but it's really compelling. So fine, a lot of us are in the visionary seat and in the compelling seat, but not on the leadership team and actually doing stuff. It's being. So I just want to
No, absolutely. And I think that's where, it was a little intentional. Certainly, it was intentional. You talking about your family first,
right?
And one of the superpowers, and also me mentioning that you actually have a craft that you get to share at work and then share at home. And so it's not as exhausting, I'm imagining, moving from one to the other.
It's all one, right?
Right. And I think I'd love for you to dive in further about when you've, when in working with other folks, again, like me included, right? Yep. Most hard driving entrepreneurs, they're one thing over here in the office and in the environment, right? They're, again, like on a pedestal, everyone's mostly loving what they're doing, right? Or being frustrated by their, sways. But then going home, either being exhausted because they're trying to do all these great, wonderful things over here. Right. They can't give life to the rest of the roles that they actually have. And so it's like you're working hard in two different facets in the same day.
Right.
Versus where you've been a master in helping me, that we can blend those two.
Right.
Right. It doesn't have to be I'm one thing over here and one thing over here.
Right.
I'm me. So I don't know.
It's the and that's where coaching visionaries on their business, and then really diving in and saying, what is your why, what, and how as a person? And is that the soul of the business? If it's not, it may not be where you want to be forever. If it is, double down on it. And so it's having the tyranny of the awesome and abundance of the and as opposed to tyranny of the or. And who do I be? And it's like, that's a tough decision. I have to filter. And so just to be me. So when people say, well, who are you? Okay, well, I'm a father, I'm a husband. Yes, I am. Those are roles. But at the end of the day, I am me, I'm a spirit, I'm a soul. And so just to be that all the time and to be present is huge. And again, haven't mastered that necessarily, but working toward that. And ultimately, it was at business probably 35 years ago when we were totally done. We were on the brink of bankruptcy. And I thought we were going to, I wanted to merge with my partner, and that was going to be easier. And then my merger and acquisition coach and friend and consultant, he's like, you know what, you got something, and you're onto something here. And I told my team, we're going to go for it, and they cheered. And that's when I became a leader, and that's when I gained a lot of confidence and was committed to something and had clarity. And it was like, wow, that was amazing. And I think you even experienced, as we've taken people to the Visionary Summit, there's been visionaries that are like, I'm happier with who I am here than I am at work or home. And it's sad, but it's very common. It's like because they felt safe. They didn't feel judged. And people may or may not be judging us, but that's that narrative in our heads. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, it's just there's so much chatter going on in the world, and it's tough to filter that through. So it's just so much simpler just to go, okay, this is all that really matters most, and this is who I am and why I'm here, and to stay focused on that and to be present is the key.
No, absolutely. And I think, again, a superpower of yours is creating that environment, that community of safety, of vulnerability, right? Not many people go to a conference for business and leave with tears, right? And hugs, and learning how to hug properly so your hearts are touching, right? That kind of thing. And so you're creating that. And I did leave out, right? Bob is he's an author many times over, actually. And your latest is Unscatter the Chatter. So you actually threw that, right?
We're on brand.
And I think that's, so keep going on that about how we, what's the work in there to help everyone be able to be the same person no matter where they are?
The ego in the mind is amazing, and it's not, about getting rid of that. It's making peace with it and using it. And so ultimately, it's to act like I matter, to be who I am, and to use and flip the pain. That's why I'm on this planet. That's what I do. And I used to try to avoid the pain. And so when I say that, pain may or may not be 35 years of therapy, but it's even just the pain of there's so much chatter, there's so much, talk and rambling and doubt coming at me from the outside, and that might be from media or government or parents or kids or neighbors or whatever, and I feel judged even if I'm not being judged. And that often will offer me the opportunity to stray from who I am and to stray from being present. And then there's the chatter inside. And most of that is not positive. And so why I should have done that, or why am I going to do that, or what if John's not going to like this interview? And it's like, it's amazing how distracting that is. And so again, I think we're all here to teach what we're here to learn. And so for me, it's to not even just quiet the mind, but to be at peace with it and to use it. And so instead of being fearful of the future, what if they don't sign up, and what if this happens, and what if Nick doesn't make the team, and what if, those are all potential, but what if it's just looking at the future with wonder and curiosity and calling forth miracles? And if not every time, almost every time, things work out. Yeah. But it's my perception, it didn't work out the way my brain thought it would. Mm-hmm. So it's more of that why rather than how and what. And then the past about that regret, I should have done that, I don't know of anyone who's been able to go back to the past and change it. And if someone can do that, that would be amazing. Mm-hmm. So to make peace with it. So I talk about imagining this future with wonder and curiosity, and then improving on the past. So that's not just to blow it off, but to learn to say, what was that lesson? What does that remind me of? And what could I have done differently knowing what I know now? Okay, cool. Not to be upset about it or regretting it. It's to then use that currently to say, okay, I'm in a situation that is bringing up an emotion similar. So how can I use that and show up different? Because otherwise, we're creatures of habit. We're going to do the same thing over and over again unless we do something different.
Right. And again, I had been my whole life the master of shoving things down too, right? Man, I was embarrassed of that years ago, shove it down. But then I like to bring it up just to mess with my mind a little bit, right? Not even
we're so cute.
Yeah. When I could be soaring, but here I am. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Right. And so when the beauty is, it's not about like just moving on and forgetting about it. Right. It's using it to do something. You have an exercise called the Flip It exercise, which is transformational in the moment, etc. for anyone. So it's really along those same lines if you want to.
Sure. David Hawkins talks about, one of my 3 favorite books is Letting Go by David Hawkins, and it's about the different levels and consciousness levels of emotions. And so the so-called negative ones or negative vibrations are shame and depression and anger and fear and pride, and then we get up to more of the positive ones. And so the process that I hear him talking about is to, and you mentioned this earlier, acknowledge the emotion, accept it, and really feel it, and then we transform to the next thing. So if I ignore it, it's going to come back, and it's dis-ease. And so often it's literally physical dis-ease. And so to recognize that emotion is, we have different ways to, like if something pops up, every anger, fear, or frustration is a learning opportunity. I don't necessarily like it, but it is. Mm-hmm. So when I have a negative emotion or a lower vibration, just to acknowledge it, that I'm sad. Like I mentioned, I was sad the other day, or I'm mad. I was mad at traffic today. Mm-hmm. But just to admit it, and then to accept it and feel it, we rise to the next level. Now, sometimes it's not as always that easy. So part of our exercise is Flip It is to do those things, but also to say, what is a situation when I was younger that reminds me of this emotion? It may have nothing to do with it, but then it's like, really, Bob, you want me to go back to this hurtful emotion? It's like, yeah, it's the healing. And the healing can be like the Marvels, snapping their fingers. It doesn't have to always have, obviously there's some therapy that might take 35 years. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can flip quickly to say, you know what, when I was 9 and my dad missed that game, I was really sad and I was angry. So to sit with that, and then to forgive him, forgive the situation, forgive myself, forgive God for this happening, whatever it might have been. And then also, what could I have done differently then, now knowing what I know now? And it would be to appreciate that he was gone because he was off making money to support us, and he was doing what he needed to do, and he wanted to be there. And I'm sure he sensed that I was mad, and he was pissed, I'm sure, and sad too. Right. So knowing that, then coming back to the present to say, whatever situation caused this emotion to come up, what can I do differently today, knowing what I know today? And it's usually the same thing, which is to forgive that person, forgive myself, show up, be present, be grateful. And it's a simple way to flip it. It's easy. It's simple, maybe not always easy. So that has been something, and then even to have a common vocabulary with fellow visionaries, with our families. So my son Nick is a master at flipping it. And so I was pissed at something a while ago, and he's like, well, flip it, Dad. I'm like, flip this, Nick. But he was right. He's like, we're having a great day, and you're upset because something didn't work out the way you wanted. And so it's so cool to have a community to help us to flip it and learn. Do we become our parents? We probably do, unless we do something different.
Yeah.
And so, the flip it is one of the tools that we use to shift that emotion, because there is literally 10, 20, 100 opportunities each day to flip it.
Oh, no, absolutely. and I think, I think the buzzword is consciousness or being present.
Right.
That's thrown around so often. And I think any version of whatever definition is right.
Yep.
And, but one of the things that I think has been helpful for me is similar to the flip it, is being present is knowing where you are and making the choice. Right? So those hurtful feelings can come up and you can be so pissed, and it's okay. But if you stop and acknowledge it, right? You used the word in the past for me, the observer, being the observer, right? Observing it for what it is.
Right. That's not who I am.
Not for what the emotion is making me do or think, right? It's not real. The emotion's not actually fact.
Right.
We can both see the same thing and we'd have a different emotion. So that means it's not a fact.
Right.
And so it's that recognizing that and going through that exercise of flip it, it brings you back when it comes up again. It's helpful. Okay, I can now make a choice to either let that take me down a rabbit hole,
Right.
or I can choose to learn from it, which that's the proof of learning,
Right.
and work through that.
And one other comment with that is to surround myself with other people who are learning and evolving and transforming. And so my wife is one of those. And so 2 Fridays ago, I was angry, and she witnessed it on a Zoom. And she was frustrated, so one of our practices is walking along the river with our dog, and we had some time to breathe. And she started to I felt correct how I could do things differently. And I said, okay, I know you're right intellectually, but that's how I feel. Mm-hmm. And we've worked enough that she took a deep breath, and she's like, hey, I acknowledge that and accept it, and sorry if I contributed to that. Mm-hmm. And part of me was like, actually, you kind of did. But she wasn't the cause of it. But it was like I had seconds to I could feel this way, and she was still there loving me. And in literally seconds, she was like, we're okay and you're okay. And I elevated to a different conscious level, and so did she. So, but rather than her harping on me and then me harping on her, that doesn't usually go well. And so to have that with my family and then at work, and that's the culture that we're talking about creating, where we have some of that common vocabulary, where why are we bringing emotions into work? It's like, well, no, we're not going to sit around and wallow in tears, but it's like if someone is struggling with something, give them a little space and support.
This isn't 1950 anymore.
Nope.
Where, the man of the house or the big boss man with the big chair, dictates everyone, right? Now, thankfully, some of the COVID, lots of things, right? There's been a leveling.
Everything works out, right?
There's been a leveling of people being aware of, damn it, my thoughts matter, right? And I think one thing where to hit back on just that interaction with Cheryl is that most conflict, damn near every conflict, really, in the work setting, at home, friends, whatever it is, where people don't respond and we're like, God, whoa, that was a bitch or whatever.
Right.
It has nothing to do with that person. It has everything to do with what's going on inside themselves, and it's just portrayed and or putting a shell up, or they're judging me, or you're trying to protect yourself, or tell them you're smarter, or show them and
taking it personally.
No, absolutely. So it can go one way, right? If I've been working on this is me working through it. Is I've been working on so many things. Well, then I come in and I'm this godly manner, right? I'm working on myself. And then I show up at home and my wife doesn't respond the way I expected her to because I was in a great Zen place. And who the hell am I? So it can feel lonely when you're working on that, but if you're not allowing other people to work on that as well.
Right.
So that's the one thing you've helpful on that too, right?
No, I appreciate that. And that's, again, for Cheryl to come into my life 30 years ago and be my teacher, and I'm teaching her, but we're learning together. And again, to stay focused on our kids for so long, and now we have the second half of our life open, and it's like, it's so cool. But to be learning together, and it's not always easy when someone is a mirror to us, but to have enough trust and faith and courage to hold up a mirror. And again, it's not about here's what you did, it's here's what I'm observing. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, but it's also an amazing opportunity. Like you said, it's not the 1950s. This is the greatest time ever to be alive. And it's not like it's all shits and giggles. And again, I'm realizing the value of pain. And I used to say, I don't want to use that word. And it's like, pain doesn't have to be forever, but it is an opportunity for us to learn and grow, not only for ourselves, but I know it heals my dad, who passed 11 years ago next month. And he's looking down smiling, saying, thanks, son. And then my son is observing me learning, so he doesn't do the same shit that I did that my dad did. And so that's just been a great opportunity. I got to golf with Nick on Sunday. I played the best round of my life, actually. I kept up with him.
Nice.
But it was and then we talked for 2 hours just about life, and it was just like, wow. And I admitted where I was a little bit struggling or what was going on, but ultimately not saying, here's what you need to do when you go away to college. It's like, here's what I'm working on today. And 3 times since then, he's referred back to it with a little sense of humor and learning, and it's like a connection. So it's not like I have to act perfect, because then we hide in plain sight. He knows it's not perfect, and I might be struggling here and there. So it's been just a great ride.
Yeah. Here's the truth bomb for anyone, regardless of their place in life, is as parents, right? I grew up with parents that they loved me, right? Did the best they could with what they have and what they know, but still had the mentality of telling. And that falls down. That's what I know best, right? That's what I've seen. And then I'm leading people, and I'm used to people listening to me. And so then I take that home, and you realize, and I would venture a guess, it's 90% of the parents out there.
It was that generation.
There's no book. We were just sitting before this with Wilson here. Thanks, Wilson, for helping us today. Talking about there isn't a manual.
Right.
Yeah, no shit, right? There is no manual. But one thing that as you've brought me present to is they're looking at what we do, not what we say. And it's embodied in your kids. You see it anywhere and everywhere. So if there is something to be taken, is people are watching everything we do. And if we aren't showing up with love in our heart, not judgment, like be in the mirror, because we're constantly judging. That's what my calling card in whole life was. Is I can read what they're looking, what they're doing, and I can act accordingly. And again, that gets you pretty far as from a business standpoint, maybe. But you're always just trying to one up versus like, wait a minute, let me sit back here with them and see where they really are. Right. And so if we're doing that judging, if we're doing that being that mirror with a place of love and not of judgment, it changes how they respond, and then it doesn't turn into a banging back and forth. Right.
And it's not everything's perfect, so be like me. It's just, this is life, man. And not to sit around and say life is hard, which it can be, but there are situations that don't line up to how we think it would be. And if it matters most, put forth the effort and keep learning and growing, and have the people around you that can support you. I mean, there's so many people that feel alone, and it doesn't have to be that way.
On that note, right, we're niching ourselves into a corner and a hole, a visionary, right? That can be, people can think is wildly amazing and cool, and others think it's pretty damn frustrating, because we don't get shit done or whatever it might be. So what are you up to now with creating a space, speaking of getting others around you to love in that way? What are you doing about that now?
We have a thing called the Visionary Forum, and I love forums, and that is about a peer group that has either experienced what someone's going through or has experienced it or probably will. And so it's sharing, expediting the synchronicity, I call it, and we know how each other feels. And so the Visionary Forum is a group of visionaries, especially that are purposeful and that want to live life beyond the vine. We talk about letting go of the vine is the control. Well, a lot of us don't know how to or want to let go of the vine if we don't know what's next. And that's what our superpower is that possibility and chasing that squirrel and being in wonder. And when I'm caught in the day-to-day of doing, I fall out of that. And so we've created a thing called the Visionary Forum. It's been around for 5 years. It's been amazing. We have a thing called the Visionary Summit, which is a retreat twice a year for 3 days. We cap it at 35 people, so it's still intimate. And it's 48 hours of all things visionary. And then you mentioned the mountain retreat. We do that a couple times a year. And that's a 4-day deep dive spiritual retreat. And then the next evolution is, again, moving from a business coach to really a culture coach. And so I'm coaching someone on business, not teaching them a system, but just coaching them and being a mirror, and then coaching them on life and communication and creating great relationships. And so, and that can be at work. Why can't it be? How much time do we spend together at work?
Yeah.
So it's mainly focused on the visionaries and ultimately kids, and that's the evolution. So I'm focused on big kids, which are visionaries, and then little kids ultimately, which is the parents and the kids. And we have a thing called I Matter for Kids, which is a nonprofit. And it's a lot easier to work with younger kids because they haven't felt and heard and succumbed to the chatter yet.
Right.
And so, again, I love working with visionaries because, again, I'm working on stuff with you and others and whatnot that I'm either learning or just learned, and that we're learning together. And then to use it, not to go back, like you said, and tell our kids and our parents, here's what you need to learn. It's just to show up. If we want to make change, be the change.
Yeah.
So, so I'm excited about that. And we have the book, and just, again, experiencing more freedom is where walking the talk is. I was selling my time for money, and so now to 10x, as Dan Sullivan says in his great book, it's working with many visionaries. How many people do we affect between podcasts and webinars and employees and vendors and whatnot? So the goal is to help 1,000 visionaries to be who they are, act like they matter, be who they are, and use and flip the pain. And that's how we heal the world. This is the greatest time ever to be alive. And we're creating shit right now, and I say shit very passionately and lovingly, that our parents never understood, right? And they're like, what do you even do? Yeah. And it's like, well, I don't even know what I do, but I be. And so for Cheryl and I to do this, and with our kids, and our kids read our book because Cheryl co-wrote it, and Grace, who has switched from an engineering career to a teaching career, and her goal is to help kids know that they matter and that God loves them. And she's like, we're a lot alike. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then my son to say, that's really cool. And that's kind of how we live our lives. And so to have that has been amazing. And then to be around other visionaries and to have this crazy dream that we can be together in one way, shape, or form. It's not about fear. It's about elevating our consciousness. So as you've helped me elevate mine, and I've helped you, we're helping each other and the people around us, but literally, energetically, we're affecting the world. And so there's many people who are successful who are like, that's kind of full of shit. It's about separateness and surviving. And I'm like, that's not how I want to live. And I actually have this insane belief that we actually can pull this off and shift from the power-hungry control people that, not to judge them, but I can only control my world and how I show up. And so it's a great time to be alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I do like to have one nugget that's going to take us down a negative hole, but it's all about the learning like we just talked about today. So what's a good failure? And I use that word in a negative way because that's how most people feel it and want, right? And what have you learned from it?
I think you said this earlier, but let's open up the bag.
Got about 45,000.
Right. And it's not even, like you said, it's not even a failure. It seems like it often. So taking a deep breath. So it's actually literally in the last few weeks where I'm creating this new business and I wasn't clear and confident and committed in the vision. And so a few people that were coming to help, I got mad because they weren't helping me get to the next level. And it's like, how come he didn't get it? Why didn't she didn't get it? And it's like, and I literally was getting angry. So again, did some flip it and worked on it to say, okay, what is my role in this? And to forgive myself. And it's like, I haven't had a clear vision that's been documented, and not just on a piece of paper, but in color on a whiteboard and in a video.
Visual.
Right. Yeah. And I've now got a new vision board in color with my life right now, which is awesome. And sharing that with people with commitment and conviction, with confidence and clarity. And since literally this is all in the last couple of weeks, where now people are like showing up and going, yeah, there's fucking Bob.
Yeah.
And so the lesson is be clear on the vision of one's life and committed to it and confident, and it all works. It's when I stray from that and literally going, I do a lot of vision quests with a couple of my best friends and was on one about a month ago, and someone said, so did you find your vision? I said, no, I remembered it. Yeah. And it's the same one, but it's been, I've allowed the chatter and the fear to go, well, as soon as I make more money, and then as soon as I do this, then Cheryl and I can get Airbnbs for months at a time and follow our kids around. It's like, wait, we could do that right now. And so I don't know if that was clear, but
No, always and absolutely, right? And then and really, it's the sharing part you've never had a problem with, right?
right. But I've often shared it in a scattered manner in the past.
Right. So it's about in the right way to enlist others to help you,
Right.
Because we know we are not the ones to get the shit done, right? That's wear that on my forehead, right? I'm not a GSD guy,
Right.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead.
Let me add one thing that
Yeah.
I actually like to get shit done if it's in my wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not the doing of something; it is the conversations and inspiring. But thank you for that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thanks, Bob, for taking the time. Really had a great time today. How can people get in touch with you?
iMatter.com is we've got all of our tools there, and again, there's the visionaryforum.com as well. So those are the two things and ways to get a hold of our book. And if you're a visionary, we've got a 6 habits assessment they can take. We do coaching. We got the Visionary Forum and the Visionary Summit. So go to iMatter.com and check us out. And if you're interested, we'd love to have conversations and heal the world and enjoy today.
Yeah, and I'll throw in there to also follow Bob on LinkedIn, and they also have the TVF, the Visionary Forum, on LinkedIn, because obviously you have great bombs. I would love everyone to watch your videos that you do regularly.
Thank you.
About just, hey, what happens in life and what's our outlook on it.
All right, love it. All right, well, thank
So
you.
again,
John.
thanks, Bob. I think that's a wrap for today.
All right.
Thanks for joining me.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.